This week, we've heard the contention of UFO researchers that there's a secret government within our government. Exactly what's going on up there?
Well, there's several, actually 9 flying saucers, flying discs that are out there of extraterrestrial origin. They're being test flown and basically just analyzed.
This is released by the Department of Defense. They authorized the release. This is one of 3 videos. This one, why I want to show it to you, they call it the gimbal. Why it's interesting is because here's a fighter pilot. He's tracking this object. You can see the shape of it, and it does this move. And when it does this move, it doesn't change its velocity, its speed, anything. So I want to see at the end of this video, which is only 30 seconds,
okay, what
you think of the movement. And I know it's like an IR video. It's not that great, you know, but just...
I won't.
Yeah.
I won't critique it.
Right.
Dude, there's a fucking drone, bro. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Look at that thing, dude. That's not our LNS though, is it? It's not. That is an LNS, dude. Well, if there's like another thing, it's rotating.
So that's something that people comment on, is as it's going, it's got this rotation, and it's not, you know, if what we're seeing is correct, and it's rotating, and it is actually shaped like that, let's say.
It's kind of hard, really, to see the shape.
I know,
and,
it's really hard.
You know, is that in fact the shape, or is that, if this is just a heat signature, are we seeing the bloom from it? You know, just the, you know, the infrared image. I mean, what does the actual visible item look like? Is it, and there's a little protrusion on the top, or in this case, the bottom there. You know, is that just heat, or is that the shape of the craft?
So we're not going to be able to answer that. A lot of people have the exact questions that you're asking there.
Is there any more of this? Is that this is the only video?
There is more, but it's not declassified. It's not allowed to be out in the public. So I happen to personally know these videos are longer.
Okay.
But what's been released to the public is small snippets, because remember the whole methods and that sort of thing. They don't want to release too much. Right. Any FLIR video is classified by nature, because of what it could show to potential enemies.
Right,
so there are much longer videos. This is all we get. And I'm not asking you to validate what you're seeing here.
No, I couldn't.
Yeah, people have huge questions. But why this is interesting, and a lot of people ask me, is that the craft will...
It is interesting that it did rotate like that, because the craft that I worked on, that when it's going to travel a long distance, that is how it operates. It flies along and it puts its belly to the target, and then brings all the amplifiers to power, and you know, it shoots off in that direction. Now, if it did something like that, I would say that's
we don't
incredibly similar.
Yeah, we don't know, but that is kind of the point of me showing that I wanted to talk to you about that. So you often discuss the craft you worked on, how it's like this, and then it would turn its belly towards where it wanted to go.
Yeah, if it's going to fly fast or long distances, it doesn't fly as it would in science fiction movies. It flies with the belly, the bottom forward.
And the occupants, if there are occupants inside this craft, when it flips and points its belly somewhere, can you explain kind of what happens to those occupants?
It's generating its own gravitational field, so it really is not just shielded by its own field, but the Earth's field, where you would think they would tilt up and they would fall down inside, that really has no bearing on it. The craft is generating its own gravity. They're standing straight up, or whatever, you know, your glass of water is sitting there and it's not spilling. I mean, the bottom of the craft is always pulling all matter to it.
So the way it's designed is that if there's occupants in it, as it were to move, the occupants would not notice a single difference in their gravitational field.
No, nothing at all.
So this craft can move
at any speed.
So the Tic Tac, Commander David Fravor talks about watching this object that was like a Tic Tac, you know, cylinders 46 feet, whatever, and like it would bounce. He said he said to me personally, like a ping pong ball in a glass. Bah, 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 bah. Sometimes it would slow down, and it would move, and then and it had no it didn't have to slow down, he said, as it went from one point to another. Just it would bounce off, and go one direction and come back. So that's what you're talking about, and what you call that inertia, or what you said, how you explain that.
But, well, I mean, that it might only look that way too. It's really difficult to know for sure, because if you are manipulating the space around the craft, I mean, time and space around there, it may just appear that way. It may just be an artifact of the way the craft's operating. It's not really bouncing back and forth like that, but it's just appearing that way, the way they're distorting the space and moving around.
But either way,
it's something
it's a gravity-driven craft, because you need, if you're distorting time,
if you're coming to a dead stop, from high speed or making ridiculous movements like that, shaking back and forth, that's not it's not conventional technology at all.
So when I told you about the way that Commander Fravor, who is one of the top fighter pilots in America, especially at that time, and he described this craft moving the way it did, you said that's got to be, if it moved like that, it's got to be a gravity-propelled craft.
Yeah, you really can't move any other way like that.
And so, like the craft you worked on, that is the key, the gravity propulsion.
Right.
Okay. So these videos that have come out, in some ways, we've talked about this is, in very small ways, vindicated some of your story. The government has admitted they have a UFO program, albeit a reactionary UFO program to military sightings.
Right. Well, back in '89, I think they said the only UFO research or program they did was Project Blue Book, which had come to an end a long time ago, and there was nothing going on. So if they admitted there was a program, so they're admitting that was a lie, and that there really was a program continuing, which is a big step. I'm surprised they did that.
And they also admitted that there are materials associated with UFOs, but inside sources say that there's actually a lot more than just a metal that was discharged from a UFO, that they may even have a craft. Inside sources meaning people like George Knapp, who have their finger on the pulse of all this. Mm-hmm. If they admit something beyond the fact that they just have alloys, although that's a big deal. That they have.
That's
alloys.
A tremendous deal.
It's a tremendous deal. And they said that the alloy itself, they're calling it a metamaterial, that the design of the material is essential to the way the craft functions, which kind of makes sense.
That's not a surprise, yeah.
Right. Anyway, so it's a new day. It's quite interesting. Just thought I'd show you this, and, let's see.
Yeah, I'd sure like to see the rest of it, but I'm sure everybody would, too.
Everybody would, too. Yeah. And, I'm hopeful that something's going to happen, but at least we get little bits, and in little ways, you and George, putting his neck out on the line, because he believed you from day one.
He didn't just believe me. He spent a lot of time, and we traveled all over.
He went with you into Los Alamos to your work.
Right.
He put you through 2 or 3 polygraph tests.
Yeah, this was no.
George Knapp had you sit down with people who he knew worked at Area 51 and landed, from McCarran on the Janet flights, landed there, and they asked you questions and put you through your paces. He doesn't advertise this, but the people he sat you with, they said, oh yeah, he's saying it right. So that's another confirmation that George didn't just believe you. He put you through your paces.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It took a long, long time before.
People don't appreciate that. They just get the end result, which is that people like George vouch for you. Mm-hmm. But they didn't get to hear all the things he did to poke at you to see, is Bob...
Yeah, it was years to get to that point, literally. So.
And and over that time you did develop a friendship with George.
Oh, yeah.
How can you not, going through something like that?
We spent a lot of time together, sure.
And he found your name, the phone book at Los Alamos, showing that even though they denied you were never there you were in the phone book.
Right. As well as Joe, the person that I worked with at Los Alamos.
George interviewed Joe.
Right, and he was in the phone book, with me. We worked in the same place, so.
The world has never seen you like in Los Alamos, right? But I actually have some home videotape of you where you're walking through Los Alamos with Joe Vannetti. You guys are just walking around laughing about how people say you never worked there. And you're in Los Alamos together. I have that footage.
Oh, wow.
And you also go to this one place and you find a piece of concrete in the ground. And in that concrete, you brush off some pine needles and you go, oh my God. And in that footage is your name with 1981. There you were at Los Alamos and you had carved your name in cement.
Oh, you know what that is? That's where we put in back then they were called Earth stations, big satellite dish. But, you know, now they're 2 feet. They used to be 7 feet across and larger. And, yeah, I remember putting in that pad and putting in a big, you know, Earth station satellite receiver there. But, yeah, that was around 82 or 83, something like that. No, maybe...
Yeah, I don't remember what
but it was
year.
in the 80s,
81.
yeah.
It doesn't matter. But
it was in Los Alamos.
And
yeah.
you made a joke and you brushed off the pine needles and you go, "Oh yeah, see, Stan, I never worked there." And you know, it was funny because you just like rediscovered it. So you've never been like really deeply interested in like proving everybody wrong that you're right, and that's been admirable.
No, I don't care. In fact, like I always said, I prefer everybody don't believe it because then nobody bothers me. They say, "Yeah, he's crazy," and that's it.
Yeah, it makes your life.
If everybody believed the story, I would be hounded till the end of time. So really, I don't really care.
Well, that is the deal. If everybody did believe your story, we'd be looking at something totally different. I mean, that might blow shit up.
Reality simply isn't what it used to be. Things are not what they seem. Everything around us is a mental construct. We create our own reality. Breaking that down is hard to do. And once it's done, there ain't no coming back.